On July 2, 1937, the world lost one of its most iconic figures. Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, took off from Papua New Guinea en route to the tiny Howland Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was an audacious flight, part of her historic attempt to circumnavigate the globe. But something went terribly wrong. What seemed like just another great achievement turned into aviation's greatest mystery. In the days that followed, the world anxiously awaited news, but instead, silence took over. The only thing left was a final radio transmission from Amelia. "We must be on you, but cannot see you. Fuel is running low. We cannot establish communication by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet." And with these words, Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, vanished from the map. For 87 years, her disappearance became one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. Thousands of theories were proposed. Did she crash into the ocean? Or was she captured? Some even suggested that she might have returned to the United States under a new identity. But the truth seemed to be lost, buried beneath the vast ocean. Until in 2024, a shocking discovery changed everything. The solution to the mystery of Amelia Earhart, which had persisted for nearly 9 decades, finally emerged. And what was found is something you could never have imagined. Who was Amelia Earhart? Amelia Earhart was not just an aviator. She was a symbol of courage and determination, especially in an era when women faced enormous barriers to achieving equality. Born in 1897 in Kansas, Amelia was fascinated by airplanes from an early age. But it wasn't until 1920, at 23, that she had her first flight experience. That moment would change her life forever. In 1923, she became the 16th woman in the United States to earn a pilot's license. But Amelia wasn't content with just that. Her ambition was greater. In 1928, she made history by becoming the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, though as a passenger. However, this experience was only the beginning. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, and only the second person, after Charles Lindbergh, to do so. The journey, lasting over 15 hours, brought Amelia international fame and solidified her place as one of the greatest pioneers of aviation. But Amelia didn't stop there. She continued breaking records, becoming the first to fly solo from Los Angeles to Mexico City, the first to fly non-stop from Mexico City to Newark, and the first to fly solo from Hawaii to California. Her audacity and courage were unmistakable, and she broke every new record with unwavering confidence. Beyond her aviation feats, Amelia was also a champion for women's rights, a cultural icon, and a powerful voice for gender equality. She was actively involved in the women's movement, promoting the idea that women could achieve anything they set their minds to, as long as they had the courage and perseverance. Her image, with her leather jacket, short hair, and confident smile, became a symbol of female empowerment. In 1937, at 39 years old, Amelia was at the height of her fame. She wanted not only to be a pioneer, but a true trailblazer in the skies. Her most audacious project yet was to fly around the world along the equator, a 29,000-mile route that no one had attempted before. This wasn't just about setting another record. It was about proving that women could accomplish feats equal to men in skill, courage, and endurance. As Amelia herself famously said, "Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others." It was June 1937, and the world was watching. Amelia was about to embark on her most daring adventure yet. But little did she know, this journey would also lead her to an unknown fate, a fate that still remains shrouded in mystery. The final flight. On June 1st, 1937, Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan departed Miami for the most challenging journey of their lives. The goal, to fly around the world, covering 29,000 miles. This would be a historic journey. But for the daring aviator, it was also a true test of endurance, skill, and courage. The aircraft chosen for this mission was the Lockheed Electra 10E, specially modified for long-distance flights, with extra fuel tanks replacing the passenger seats. Amelia and Fred were ready to face the unknown. In the early days, the trip seemed to be going well. They flew through South America, crossed the Atlantic, passed over Africa, and traversed the Indian Ocean to Southeast Asia. Each new leg of the journey brought increasing challenges, but nothing seemed to stop Amelia. After all, she was a woman who had broken records and defied expectations. But the final flight, which would begin in Papua New Guinea, would be the most dangerous of all. On July 2, 1937, they took off from Leyte, New Guinea, heading toward Howland Island, a small speck of land in the vast Pacific Ocean. Howland was the final destination of their journey, a tiny strip of land only 1.5 miles long, practically invisible from the sky. The mission seemed straightforward, but this leg of the flight would be the most difficult. A 2,500-mile flight over open ocean, with no landmarks to guide them and absolute precision required in navigation. To assist them, the U.S. Coast Guard had stationed a ship, the Itasca, near Howland Island to provide radio guidance, helping Amelia and Fred stay on course. However, things began to go wrong shortly after takeoff. The initial radio contact was made, and all seemed to be going well. But as time passed, Amelia began reporting difficulties. Fuel was running low, visibility was poor, and communication with the Itasca became increasingly difficult. At 7:42 a.m. local time, Amelia made her last transmission. "We must be on you but cannot see you. We are running low on fuel and cannot establish communication via radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet. The response she received was confused and fragmented. Her final confirmed transmission, made an hour later at 8:43 a.m., was even more alarming. "We are on the line, Muthvent in 337. We will repeat this message. We are running north and south. We are out of fuel." Then, silence. The United States launched what was at the time the largest and most expensive air and sea search in history. The Coast Guard and the U.S. Navy sent planes and ships to cover 250,000 square miles of the Pacific, but the result was the same: nothing. There were no wreckage, no signs of life, just the vast emptiness of the ocean. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan was not just a tragic event. It was the start of one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. For decades, the question remained: what really happened to them? Where were the remains of the aircraft? And why, after so many searches, did the world never find a single piece of wreckage? Theories began to emerge, but without evidence. The mystery of Earhart's disappearance grew even more perplexing. The first theory was the simplest. Amelia and Fred likely crashed into the ocean, victims of a navigation error or running out of fuel. The U.S. Coast Guard, along with the Navy, sent an enormous fleet of ships and planes to search the area, covering 250,000 square miles of the Pacific Ocean. But the search was fruitless. Nothing was found. No pieces of the aircraft, no life raft, no oil slick, just the emptiness of the ocean. As the years passed, new theories arose. Some believed Amelia and Fred hadn't crashed into the ocean, but had landed on an uninhabited island. This mysterious place was quickly identified as Garner Island, now known as Nikumaroro, located about 400 miles southeast of Howland Island. In the years that followed, researchers began to focus on this theory, arguing that after the navigational error that had diverted them from Howland Island, Amelia and Fred may have reached Nikumaroro, where they could have survived for a time. While no aircraft was found, some expeditions reported discoveries that seemed to suggest the island might indeed be the place where the aircraft had landed. Pieces of metal and a plexiglass window, which could have come from Earhart's Electra Pak, were found. But there was never any conclusive proof. The theory remained alive but uncertain. Throughout the following decades, the search for answers continued along many paths. While some still believed in the island theory, others began to explore a more drastic idea. What if Amelia and Fred had been captured by Japanese forces? In the years after the disappearance, World War II was on the brink of erupting, and some theorists suggested that the aircraft may have been diverted to the Marshall Islands, which were then under Japanese control. The idea that Amelia and Fred may have been taken prisoner sparked even more speculation, especially after a controversial photograph emerged, supposedly showing Amelia and Fred in Japanese custody. However, This photo was quickly debunked when researchers discovered it had been taken years before Earhart's flight. In the 1980s, a new wave of exploration began. Groups like TJAR, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, focused more intensely on the island theory, sending teams to Nikumaroro to search for traces of the aircraft or any sign that Amelia and Fred had survived for a time after the forced landing. Over several expeditions, items were found that could have belonged to Earhart, such as a bottle of freckle cream, a product that Amelia used, and possibly a fingerprint on a piece of leather. However, once again, nothing was definitive enough to solve the mystery. The question remained, did Nikumaroro really harbor the castaways, or were these discoveries just fragments of an incomplete puzzle? As time went on, other less plausible theories surfaced. Some suggested that Amelia had simply given up on the trip and returned to the United States under a false identity, an idea that was never substantiated by any evidence. There were even those who believed that Amelia had lost control of the aircraft, entering into a spiral of misinformation. For decades, what happened to Amelia and Fred was nothing more than a series of theories and guesses, until one theory, seemingly simple, began to gain traction and would eventually change the course of the entire investigation. This theory, known as the dateline theory, was first proposed by Liz Smith, a former NASA employee and amateur pilot, who approached the mystery from a navigator's perspective. Smith's theory focused on a simple human error that could have had catastrophic consequences: the failure to account for crossing the international dateline during long flights. Navigators like Fred Noonan relied on celestial navigation, using sextant readings of stars and the sun to determine their position. These calculations required precise timing and date information, and the international dateline presented a unique challenge when crossing from west to east. A day is lost when crossing east to west, and a day is gained when crossing west to east. Earhart and Noonan's flight from New Guinea to Howland Island crossed this invisible boundary, requiring an adjustment in their calculations. Smith theorized that after 17 hours of exhausting flight, Noonan might have forgotten to make this adjustment. This simple oversight would have led to a westward navigational error of approximately 60 miles, placing them in a completely different search area than previous expeditions had focused on. What made this theory particularly compelling was its human element. Even the most skilled navigator could make such a mistake under stressful conditions. Fatigue from a long flight, the pressure of guiding a small aircraft over thousands of miles of open ocean, and the challenge of locating a tiny island with limited fuel. The dateline theory gained traction among aviation experts and historians because it didn't require elaborate conspiracy theories or unlikely scenarios. It simply acknowledged the possibility of human error in a high-pressure situation. In 2024, this theory guided researchers to a new search area, an area that had never been thoroughly explored before, about 100 miles west of Howland Island. It was here, using cutting-edge technology and modern deep-sea exploration techniques, that the breakthrough was made. In January 2024, Deep Sea Vision, a marine robotics company, captured sonar images showing what appeared to be an aircraft resting on the ocean floor, potentially Amelia's missing Lockheed 10E Electra. This discovery set off a series of events that would bring clarity to the mystery once and for all. The team, led by Tony Romeo, a former USS Air Force intelligence officer, had invested heavily in new technology, including an advanced underwater drone capable of operating at extreme depths. After several months of searching, they finally found the wreckage in the exact area predicted by the dateline theory. The sonar images were clear. The object had the distinct shape of an aircraft, with twin tails and dimensions matching Earhart's Electra. The breakthrough had finally arrived. Further investigations and high-resolution cameras revealed that the wreckage was indeed that of Amelia Earhart's aircraft. The dimensions, configuration, and features of the wreck matched those of the Lockheed Electra. The location of the wreckage was exactly where it should have been, according to the navigational error caused by crossing the international dateline. The aircraft had been located. But the mystery didn't end there. The team's next challenge was to confirm whether Amelia and Fred survived the landing. Some believed they may have survived for hours or even a day before the aircraft sank into the depths. Others speculated that they perished shortly after the landing. As the investigations continued, additional expeditions explored Nikumaroro Island, where fragments of aircraft had previously been found. Researchers suggested that parts of the plane might have drifted from the main wreckage site to the island due to ocean currents, further linking the two locations. In 2025, with physical evidence in hand and the collaboration of multiple teams, the theory was finally proven. Amelia Earhart's aircraft had been located, and the final moments of her journey were pieced together. The mystery of her disappearance, once the most famous unsolved riddle in aviation, was now solved. And while the ultimate fate of Amelia and Fred remains uncertain, the legacy of their courage and determination endures. Amelia Earhart's story is no longer just one of loss and mystery. It is a testament to the spirit of exploration, the pursuit of answers, and the unyielding drive to break barriers, no matter the cost.